Today we're going to shade a cube with the light source from the right. So you are going to need a pencil, ruler, and eraser. So if you do not have a ruler, you can tear out another page from your sketchbook, fold it in half so it's smaller. Whatever you can find that has a straight edge, a magazine, a book, anything like that. The first thing I want you guys to do is divide your paper in half. This line does not need to be perfect. I just want you to divide your paper in half because you're going to have to draw one on your own on the right side later. So, to start this, we need to draw our cube. So take your ruler, and we're just going to start with a kind of V shape, a very squished, flattened out V. And then from that corner, I'm going to draw a vertical line. This is going to be the corner of our box. Oops. That was very... Now, what we need to remember about cubes is that all lines are parallel to another line. So to draw the top of our cube, we need to match the lines from the bottom. So I am going to line my ruler up with one of those bottom lines, and I'm just going to slide it upwards till I hit the top of that vertical line that I just drew. Draw another line. Now let's do that again on the other side because that may have been confusing. I'm going to line my ruler up with the bottom line on the left. So you can see I've lined it up, and now I'm just going to slide it up. I'm not moving the direction the ruler is sitting in, I'm just sliding it upwards until I hit the top of that line. This way I know that my lines are parallel to each other. So again, I lined it up and I slid it until I hit the top of that vertical line. Now we also need to draw two more vertical lines for our cube. So I'm going to line it up with that center vertical line, and I'm going to slide it over and connect the two lines that I just drew. Again, I'm going to line my ruler up with that center vertical line, and I'm going to slide it over, and then I'm going to connect the two lines that I have. So now it kind of looks like an open book. What we are going for is a cube that looks something like this, but without all those extra lines that you wouldn't actually be able to see if this were a solid box. I'm sure many of you have drawn a cube like that before, but this is not quite what we're going for, right? So then we have to draw the top of our cube because right now it looks a little funky. So to draw the top of our cube, we're going to do the same thing that we did before, where we lined our ruler up with one of the lines up here. So this back line of our box is actually going to line up with this front line here. So if you were to look at a box in real life, like this box for example, you can see that all lines are parallel to one another. And this is the case for every box. Every side of this box is parallel to another side. Currently, we're looking at the box from this angle. So we know that we have these lines here drawn already, and they are all parallel to each other. So now we are going to draw the top. And we can see that this line here and this line here are parallel. Then we can see that this line here and this line here are parallel. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be lining our ruler up with one of these two lines and sliding it over to get these back two lines. So line your ruler up with this line on the right side here, and then you're just going to slide it over till you hit this back corner over here. We did this when we did perspective as well, with 2-point perspective. And I'm just going to draw my line. Now, I may have drawn that too far. I don't know. I can always erase it later. Now I'm going to line my ruler up with the line on the other side. And I'm just going to slide it over, trying to keep my ruler as straight as possible. I can double check it when I get to this side of the ruler. You can see it's still lined up. And when I hit this corner here, I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. So now you have a basic cube. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it as close as you can for this exercise. So now we have our cube. We're going to draw our light source on the right side. Now, with our light source on the right side, it's going to hit this side of the cube first. So this side of the cube is actually going to be the lightest side because it's getting the most light. This side of the cube is going to be the darkest side because it's getting the least amount of light. Now, a little bit of light can escape over top of this edge here so that the top of our cube gets just a little bit of light, so it's going to be the middle value. So we've got the lightest, middle value, and the darkest. Now this is the darkest because of the way our box is sitting at an angle. All of the light is going to be blocked from this side by this corner here. So when we shade this, we're going to leave this first side completely white. Not going to shade it at all because it's getting the most amount of light. We're going to shade this one a nice middle value, and we're going to make this side really dark. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the darkest side. And remember that 2 directions of shading, we still have to do that even on a cube. So all I'm doing is shading this all the same shade. Now I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on my pencil. I'm still holding it towards the back because I'm getting the side of my lead onto the paper. It's making a nice smooth shading. So now I've done one direction. I'm going to go ahead and do the other. And I'm trying to make this pretty dark. I don't need to press down super hard because I know that I can make this top of the box slightly lighter. So I don't need to worry too much about pressing super hard to make it super dark. I'm not worried about that right now. I just know I want this side to be dark. You can always clean up some of this outside of the lines shading later. Now I'm going to do the top. I'm actually going to go ahead and just do this very lightly. Now remember, follow those 2 directions of shading. Remember, the sides of your object will tell you which directions to shade in. So I'm shading super lightly this time, because I know that I need this to be lighter than this side. So I don't want to go too dark too fast. You can always go darker, you can't always go lighter. So I'm shading super lightly. Now I've shaded this direction. Now my second set of lines are telling me to shade this direction. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead, clean up my messy shading. For our cube's shadow, we are going to extend this back line here. And then we are going to kind of draw a triangle that is close to the angle of these lines here. I'm going to draw my back line here, but I want to know exactly where I need it to be. So I'm actually going to line my ruler up with this line here on the top so that I know that this line is going the same direction, or close to it. And I'm just going to go from that back edge of that line until I hit the cube. So now I have my shadow. Now we remember that our shadow is darkest closest to our object, and we need that to be darker than the darkest side. So I'm pressing really hard. I'm kind of keeping it in this triangular shape. And then I'm going to let it fade out. And there is our shadow for our cube. All right, so now you need to draw your own cube, but choose a different light source. And your light source cannot be from the right. So what that means is your light source cannot be here. It could be up here, from one of the corners, straight up above, from the left side, wherever you want it to be, as long as it's not from the right side. Draw your own cube on the right side of your paper, and good luck.